Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight I'm joined by Jason Trumbo. Say hi, Jason.
Hi, Jason.
As you can see, Jason fits in just perfectly with the rest of us. Jim will be joining us shortly if we can get his internet issues figured out. It appears that he's having some problem with his ISP or something like that. But tonight, what we're talking about is favorite calibers. Now, before we get too far along here, we want to make sure that everybody realizes, no, this is not, okay, my caliber is better than your caliber. Hi, Jim. Welcome to the fun. But this is which caliber you personally choose. So, as most of the people know who've been in shooting for any sort of time, you can start bar fights and world wars over which caliber is better. So this is all about personal preference. And what we did is we posted earlier in the week, it was Tuesday or Wednesday, on the Reloading room in Facebook. And we had over 180 responses, and I have a list of those all made up. There is quite a few different options. The 45 ACP wound up being the number one choice. Not real surprising on that, but wound up actually more than double the next. It was your favorite cartridge, whether it was rifle or pistol or both. We had quite a few people that did vote on more than one cartridge, and that's perfectly fine. That was kind of the idea behind it. So what we had is 45 ACP had 45 votes, and that was number one by far and away for the handgun cartridges. Probably second was, let's see here, survey says 357 Magnum. It had 16 votes to 9mm 14. A couple of the cartridges that were interesting. A couple of people said, 38 Special, 10mm got some votes. We had one vote for 5x7 or 5.7 by 28, and we had one person that just put 32. We're not sure. I'm not sure on what variant of 32 that was, so I just wrote down 32. Hi, Jim.
Hey, hello. I think I figured something out. Sorry about that mess.
Hey, welcome to the fun.
And of course, wipe that grin off your face, you bum. How you doing, Jason? Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Jim.
All right, so now that we've got all three cohorts here, what we usually start off with is what we did in Reloading / Firearms this week. So I'll go first. I hand-loaded a couple of 223 cartridges just to do a little bit of video. I went to Rekov's Target Shop, which is my local place to find shot and powder, and bought a couple of pounds, or a couple of bags of 25-pound shot. I bought, believe it or not, the Magnum is now cheaper than the actual chilled lead, and I'm just using it for traps, so cheap's what I was looking for. So I got that, and I got some wads. They did have some rifle powder in stock, not real much on the pistol. Pistol powder seems to be the one that's really getting hard to get a hold of, and they did have some shot shell powders also. But the good news is everything but 22, they seem to have a pretty decent stock on. Then, to celebrate Independence Day, I took my boys out to the range. And between the two of them in about an hour and a half, they killed off most of a box of 333 rounds of 22. And then I introduced them to the joys that are the AR-15, and of course now looks like I'm going to be building a couple because they want their own. So not a bad problem to have, other than getting it by the wife. So that's why I'm going to build them, because I can buy parts piece by piece, and I'm not going to get in trouble for spending $800 per rifle by the time I'm done. So, Jason, what'd you do this week?
Oh, I was reloading with my eldest son. He isn't much of a reloader, but he came out to the shop this weekend and helped Dad, and I got him set up to do some 357 Magnum. And I picked myself up a Dillon Media Tumbler, the big boy. So that thing's pretty neat compared to the old RCBS I was using. I'm pretty impressed with it. That was about it.
All right. How about you, Jim?
Friday I took a couple new shooters shooting, and let's put it this way. We have 2 permanent for life long Second Amendment believers now. Then today I went up to the Eldred Conservation Club, and we finished the project that I'd started last year. We hung some steel clangers up for on our pistol range, 50-yard steel clangers. That's for the dedicated pistol shooters that think that they can't hit anything if it's beyond 25 feet.
Aha. Sounds like a good thing. Is one of those clangers the ones you were showing off last week?
Yes, sir. I actually just released, put up a video of that exact thing and put it over in the reloading room and up on YouTube. A link to it. Jason, you'll want to look at that later on. Don't try it now. Don't load up your computer or your tablet. But anyway, yeah, I did put up video on that, and the guy called my last shot a miss, but it wasn't a miss. You could see the actual splatter of the lead at the end of it there, and you can hear the sound of steel on steel. And I don't think there's a better sound, or lead on steel. There isn't a better sound in the world than a good hit.
Yep.
Definitely agree with you on that. There's definitely no more pleasure than shooting steel and hearing that hit. So, it sounds a lot cooler than paper does.
Oh, yeah.
So what we were talking about is when Jim and I were talking earlier in the week, we were talking about what we wanted to talk about tonight. And Jim threw up the suggestion of favorite caliber. So what I did is I put on the Facebook page, the Reloading Room, which we're all spend lots of time at. And 2 important things. We now have 15,000 members and the 3-year anniversary. So, but Jim will talk more about that later. But what I did is we put up a question and asked the members of the Reloading Room what their favorite calibers were. And then I went through and tabulated all the answers and kind of tallied up to see what was most popular. And as Jim predicted, about a third of the way through, 45 ACP was by far and away the most favorite. So, everybody has their cartridge or their caliber argues over what's better, but it really doesn't matter what's better. It's what you prefer personally, and obviously, according to the poll, 45 ACP seems to be the biggest popular one. We did have plenty of votes for 357, 9mm, had a few for 10, had a few for 38 Special. And the only 2 that I really combined as far as the overall tabulations, I combined 223, 556, and I combined 308 and 762 by 51 NATO. Technically, you can interchange them if you're, depending on which way your firearm's set up. On the 223 556, if you have a 556 barrel, you can run either. And for the 308 762 by 51, if you have the 308 barrel, you can run either. So main difference is the 556 neck's a little longer, and it usually is loaded a little hotter. And then the 762 by 51 is also a little dissimilar in shape, but it will fit in the 308 chamber without a problem. However, the 308 will not fit in the 762 by 51 chamber. So, on to the rifle cartridges. Jim, what do you think number 1 was?
556/223.
Okay. Jason, what do you think?
308.
Jason is correct.
Huh.
308 by 1
That's
vote.
a first.
308 by 1 vote. 30-06 was second. And there was 17 votes for 308, 16 votes for 30-06. And then next up in the rifle category, If I combined all the 6.5s together, they probably would be next. I did keep some of them separate, and you'll also notice I'm going to post this whole list. What some people will notice is all 6.5s or any 22 diameter. That was what the person voted, so I counted that as a separate vote, just to kind of be honest and accurate in this. Probably the next after that is 223, 556, the 6.5s. 76239 was shortly behind that. And then you get into some of the custom cartridges, so everything thins out a little more. We did have a couple of black powder votes. We had one for 45 and one for 40 and one for 50. So let's see here. Probably I had a couple of what they call the old black powder rounds. We had a 3220, and in the poll was a 4440. So what I did in this sheet, when everybody gets a chance to see this, is I listed it in order of vote. When the cartridge appears is how long it took for somebody to vote for that cartridge to appear in the list. Probably the biggest surprise of how long it took was 762 by 39 and 556. They didn't appear until, where are they? 53rd person to vote voted for 762 by 39. The 54th person to vote voted for 223 556. So it took a long time before those two popular rifle cartridges showed up. The second thing voted for. So it went 4440, then 45 ACP, 30-06, 308, and then fifth thing voted for was not just one. And we had 7 people say that. They have so many cartridges they like, they couldn't narrow it down. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the only cartridge on this list I've honestly never heard of is one that's called a 30 Herret, Herret.
Oh yeah, I know that cartridge well.
That's what I was hoping.
I know that cartridge well.
What's it based off of?
30-30 Winchester.
Okay.
Except that it's blown out more.
Oh, okay.
That's why they use that, because all they have to do is alter the shape of the reamer. I'm sorry, use the reamer to alter the shape of the chamber, because the gun's already set up for 30-30 Winchester, and they blow the shoulder quite a bit higher.
Oh, okay.
And it actually, the 30 Herret is set up for head spacing off of the shoulder, as opposed to the 30-30, which is set to head space off the rim. But all they do is just take and make the chamber maybe a 0.002 tighter, and then you just set your head space with your dies. If you're using, and it's a Wildcat, it never was factory ammo.
Yeah.
And it's, there's also the 357 Herret too, which is also based off of the 30-30 cartridge. But it basically is, it's not a straight 375 Winchester, but I'll tell you what, it's pretty much of a straight wall case up until the point where you have to have the neck and shoulder, where you have to have that to hold the smaller bullet.
Okay. Jason, you want to tell everybody what you voted for?
444 Marlin.
In this list, Jim's vote and my vote are not included yet. Jason's is, because he posted on there, but Jim and I specifically left our choices off so we could talk about them on the show, but also we wanted to have Jason talk about his. So Jason does reload that. So Jason, tell us about the 444.
What specifically do you want to know?
Well, what attracted you to the cartridge in the first place? We're going to lock the camera on you so people can see that cartridge. What attracted you to the cartridge? Performance. It is, it's kind of one of the not so common ones. A lot of people have heard about it, but what do you like it for? What do you do with it?
What attracted me to it was my neighbor was selling one, and he sold it to me for dirt cheap. So I got a Marlin lever action, and it was manufactured the year I was born, 1965. That's how I got started in it. I started casting bullets for it immediately, just using my 44 Magnum bullets, 240 grain, and it's just an easy gun to shoot, and it's good for a freeloader because it's not throwing brass all over the place that you have to go chase. So that's basically what attracted me to it.
All right.
I have a question, if you don't mind. Jason, what's that like on recoil?
It's a sharp recoil, but it's not bad. It's less than a 30-06.
What's the heaviest bullet that you see listed in your reloading book for that particular caliber? That's a 429 diameter bullet, is it not?
Yes. I believe 300 and something grain was the heaviest I've noticed.
That'll get your attention.
Yes, it would.
All right, Mike, back to you.
Okay. My favorite, as some people who've listened to the podcast can probably guess, 308 Win and 40 Smith & Wesson, with a close third on the 5.56-223 platform. 308. My actual first long rifle was a 30-06. I love the 30-06 cartridge. It's a great cartridge. But what I wanted is I wanted a little less recoil, and I just wanted to be able to, ultimately get some, 30-06 isn't any different, but I wanted to be able to make sure when I got my rifle that in the event that, I was going somewhere I couldn't bring my ammunition left, I was going to be able to find a decent selection of ammunition. And the 308's a little less on the powder, so it's a little less on the kick, and that's why I chose 308 over the 30-06. A lot of versatility, and even though it's I'm not sure how old it is, but I know it's over 50 years old, they're still finding new things to do with it. They're finding different bullet combinations, different powder combinations for factory loads. And then we in the reloading world have, infinite amount of combinations. 40 Smith & Wesson, why I chose it is I didn't really... I wanted to get something that had a lot of power, but not necessarily was going to be as expensive to shoot. 45 is a little more expensive to shoot than a 40. Plus, I wanted to have a little more capacity. 40 is a great cartridge. At some point in time, I will have 45s and 9s, so it's not that I hate either cartridge. It's just the 40 is what I chose for my first cartridge in handgun. And Jim, how about you? Can you narrow it down to 3 or 4?
The single cartridge I like to load the best. Well, that would have to be 357 Magnum. Reason being, I discovered several years ago a Seiko 200 grain truncated cone bullet. As I've told you folks before, I've showed you bullets and all that, but the thing is, I love the way that slams into that steel like it did today. I just love the way the energy, it actually hits that AR-500 steel so hard, it actually puts wee little pockmarks on the steel. That's serious energy. I'm driving a 200 grain bullet, 1050 feet per second. I've actually chronoed it. It's averaging about 1050. But the reason is that I like it so well is just because it's so easy to reload for me. I run it through my Dillon, through the brass feeder. I don't have any trouble whatsoever. I use Unique, for every handgun cartridge I have. But it gives me the velocity I want, and if I need a little bit more, well, I'm not going to take and go over the book load, but I certainly am not afraid to go up to the top of what the book lists for a load. 357 Magnum is my favorite cartridge. When I got that Marlin in 1894, it just blew things apart for me because It's like I can load my favorite handgun cartridge. With Jason and I have talked about this before because we're both reloaders. We don't like brass, you know. So it's like when I take and put that same cartridge in my Marlin 1894C, I'm running that bullet at 1,800 feet per second. It's like, it's it'll make you sit up and take notice.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't think a lot of people realize is when they've got a favorite handgun cartridge, especially like a 357 38, you know, your 44s, 44 mag. There are a lot of long guns that are chambered in that same offering, and you can get a lot. You're getting a significant velocity increase in that. And so the other advantage, just like it used to be in the Old West, where they would get, you know, they'd have their single action Army or their Smith & Wesson and 45 long Colt, and then they'd have their, you know, Winchester 1866 or, you know, 1873 and 45 long Colt. The advantage is you have one caliber for a couple different platforms. So it's a lot easier to do, and more often than not, you don't have to change your recipe depending on what you're shooting it out of.
Believe it or not, Ruger, you know, we're not limited to, in that particular caliber, we're not limited to lever guns either for long guns. Ruger actually makes a 357 Magnum rifle, bolt-action rifle.
Is that in their American series, or is that in the 77?
I don't know the difference.
I'll have to check. There's also, you know, you can get different, there's a couple of single shots that come out in the pistol calibers too, so if you're looking for just the single shot options.
Oh yeah, you're right about that. Like the Thompson Center Encore, the Thompson Center, the long gun they use the Encore frame. I don't know what they call it. But
yeah.
Go
ahead. I was trying to remember the name and I thought I remembered it, but I think they call it the Encore Plus, or they used to anyway. So.
Well, I know the Contender came in a rifle, which is the predecessor to the Encore. It came in with a rifle length barrel, and it came with a rifle stock. You had to register it as a rifle, or of course, the shorter barrel had to be registered as a handgun. But what was nice is if you registered the handgun, you actually were able to. No, that's right. You're not allowed to put a stock on a handgun. But if you registered the frame as a rifle, you couldn't put the handgun grip on it. That's what it was. But anyway, it's confusing. But yeah, the Contender, that's another very, 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 or an Encore, they're both very versatile guns. The only thing is, you know, it's like, it's for the guy that knows what he's doing. Shoot one time, that's it. Because it's a single shot gun.
Jason? Anything you'd like to add on 357?
I shoot a lot of 357. It's a lot of fun. I don't have a rifle in 357. I just have a Smith & Wesson pistol, but that usually goes with me. Anytime I go to the range, it'll get shot.
Okay.
Yeah, Jason and I have both growled about losing brass coming out of our semi-automatic, our flow-through guns.
Yeah, it's not fun when you can't find your brass at the range.
Not at a nickel a piece.
Yeah, I know. That's huge savings. And actually, if you think about it, if you take your one case and you estimate, you know, 5 loadings, that's even more. So, if you see brass laying around at the range, kids, pick it up.
Yes, sir.
If you don't have a use for it, I guarantee you will find someone that does.
Well, more than that. It's even more than that. It's the point is, if you don't use that brass, it becomes litter.
Right.
You know, if nothing else, that rationale is there.
Yeah. And, you know, obviously the 22 long rifle, the 22 shorts, you know, all your rimfire stuff is not currently reloadable with any practical. There are people out there that I've heard that have successfully reloaded it, but it's a very dangerous process and very time consuming. So not really something that your average reloader is going to think about doing. It's more of those people that have become to the point where they're looking for that next new challenge, I guess is what you could say, with trying to reload rimfire. So the two main reasons is, one, you have to try and get the crimp out from where the firing pin struck the rim of the cartridge, and two, it's a wet primer system that they use in the rimfires, and it's not exactly safe to handle. It's one of those that it's very it's the wet version is a lot more stable than the dry one they used to use, but still not necessarily the most stable of items. Obviously, as you know, all it takes is a good tap from the firing pin and it goes off, so if you happen to drop it, you're in for a world of hurt.
The other part is, too, placing the priming compound uniformly. Those folks in the ammo plants, they're using a high-speed centrifuge to place that measured amount of priming compound. We don't have the technology to do that.
No. Hooking it up to your Dremel's not going to cut it.
Well, Jason might try it. He's Superman.
Nah.
Mike, I have to apologize to you and our viewers, because Jason and we have a love-hate thing going on. I love to agitate him, and he hates to laugh about it. No, Jason and I have been friends for quite a while, since he joined the reloading room and so on and so forth. He's also one of my senior admins in the reloading room, and all that sort of thing. But every time me and him get on the phone, we wind up howling at each other because it's our stupidity.
That's the fun part.
Just bear with us.
So that's definitely good to have you, Jason. Definitely fun, and always good to have extra, people on here and get more opinions and more views. Jim, you want to talk about what the big upcomings are in the reloading room?
Well, we've already had two major events in the last 2 weeks, and the first one was we hit 15,000 members. We're up to 15,275 the last I looked. Jason could probably tell you we're probably closer to 15,300. And that was, I believe, last week. Well, then, of course, Friday, we had our, it wasn't much of a big deal, but Friday, the reloading room became exactly 3 years old. I created the reloading room on Facebook in the year 2011 on the 5th day of July at 10:41 p.m. And I created it with a friend of mine that I went to school with. I don't want to use his name because I'm not sure how he feels about privacy. He probably doesn't care, but at the same time, he didn't give me permission. But anyway, it was just he and I, and it was a secret group at the time. And he was talking about getting into reloading for the Dan Wesson 445 Super Mag, and which is basically about halfway between the 44 Magnum and Jason's fabulous 444 Marlin. But it's like he was going to do that for metallic silhouette, and he was asking me for help with the equipment he was selecting, for his reloading setup. And I actually wound up persuading him into changing from the RCBS 505 into the RCBS 1010 scale, that sort of thing. And I created it to help the guy out, and the funny thing is, here I am, 3 years later, I'm helping out 15,000 folks. No, I don't actually do a whole lot in the reloading room hands-on, per se, because it's so busy. But one of the nice things we also did this week is, like, Mike, you've heard me talk about the ABCs of reloading. C.
Yep.
Rodney James. We added the editor of the book, the 9th edition of the book, the ABCs of Reloading. He is now a member of the reloading room. He isn't real active right now, but at the same time, the reason is because he's probably overwhelmed with all the traffic we have. You know, it's like, you know, I right now I'm literally looking at this iPad watching you, and I've seen at least 3 to 5 notifications come through over the last 10 minutes of new posts that go through the reloading room. We have so much traffic. That is our strength, is the traffic and the numbers. And, you know, Jason and I think a lot alike. That's one of the reasons why I like to twist each other's tails so much, is because we do think so much. We're like a pair of old curmudgeons. You know, we like to butt heads, but we both know we both know the other one's right. You see there, he ain't even arguing. Because like, what's up with you, man?
All I heard was, you know I'm right.
That's all that mattered.
If we weren't on video, Jason, you know what I'd say to you.
Yep.
And I only need one finger to do it. Oh, I warned you, Mike. I warned you. We would turn your place into a free-for-all.
I was well expecting it, so.
But anyway, so that's 3 major events for us. I happened to run into Mr. James at the NRA convention back in Indianapolis. That was before you and I started podcasting, as far as that goes.
Yeah.
So it's like I run into him, and we struck up a bit of acquaintance. I gave him a business card. He emailed me, and until finally, I persuaded him to come visit with us. But you know, he is a writer of sorts. He is a writer, I'm sorry, and all that sort of thing. You know, so I don't want to push the man as far as, you know, the actual 4.7 grains of unique for a starting load of 9mm. You know, we don't do that. You know, it's like, I'm not going to ask the man for recipes. He has been asking for suggestions for the 10th edition of the ABCs of Reloading. And I did take a survey of that, and I emailed him the entire thread of that. But that was sometime earlier this year. So basically, Jason, did I miss any of the major events, sir?
I don't think so.
Well, I know one thing. We've had a big month in the month of July, 15K in 3 years. I wonder how many Facebook groups get this big. Well, it's like we grew 14,000 members in 2 years' time. Carol was just looking at the plaque for that September the 4th, 2012, and in less than 2 years' time, we've grown by 14,000 members. That's just, you know, I'm speechless.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see. I've only been a member for about a year now, but yeah, just the growth has been awesome to see. So, and it's amazing how quickly the questions get responded to. You know, I was just watching for a minute there. Somebody threw up a post, and before you could blink, there's 4 answers. So it's not a case of some of the, you know, groups you go to where you're looking for help and you post a question and it's worse than like Indian tech support, where it takes like 3 days and you're sitting there and nobody, you know, ever gets back to you. You get an answer pretty quick if it's, you know, anywhere close to daylight hours.
Funny thing is, Mike, you mentioned that. That's exactly how I started Reloading. And once I opened it up, once I changed it from secret to open, and we started adding people. This is even before you, Jason. You know, somebody would throw a post up there, and I would make sure that they had an answer within as soon as I saw it, and it's snowballed from there, and that's the way I want it.
So, and it's not, you don't get the typical, oh, why are you asking that stupid question in the reloading room. You don't get that at all.
Well, I beg to differ with you with extreme courtesy, but we also, and Jason and I are always watching. All the admins we're always watching for smart-ass answers, smart-aleck answers. We don't particularly tolerate discourtesy. If you don't like the question, move on.
Yep.
We enforce that.
Yeah, you guys must be quick with the deletes then, if there is any, because I honestly I don't recall seeing any of those type of answers to questions where, oh, that's a stupid question, why answering that? Get a, that type of thing. It's a very helpful place for new people and also people that have been doing it for a long time because, Jim, you can attest to this. Jason, you can attest to this. You never learn everything.
That's a fact.
And it's great to have so many people that do so many different cartridges. With the quiz, with the post that I did, we have between handgun and rifle. There was people that put shotgun. I didn't include that. There was only a couple people that did that. But between the pistol and rifle, we have 86 different cartridges listed.
As I recall, the last I looked at that thread, you had 168 comments on that thread.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it wound up being close to 180, and 86 different cartridges. So, a big diversity. So, as you can see, we do have a wealth of experience there to really answer the questions. The Jim did a great thing when he created it, and everybody who's on the admin team does a great job of maintaining it and keeping it going.
Amen.
So
it wouldn't be anywhere near what the reloading room is without the pride. You should see some of the pride the admins take in recording or in the management. I don't want to get into a whole lot of how we manage, but how we manage is the folks take a lot of pride. They believe in what we're doing, and they take a lot of personal pride. The guy right there on the other side of this video screen, he's one of the worst contributors to that problem. You know what I mean? Thank you, Jason. I mean that very much, friend. Yeah, I'm picking on him again. I can't quit. I can't help myself.
That's what you do with your friends. So, Jason?
Yes, sir.
Anything you'd like to add? Anything, comments, questions, concerns? Picking on Jim?
I could pick on Jim all night.
Yeah, but we're not getting paid for that.
We're not getting paid for anything. Wait a minute. Are you getting
Oh,
paid?
wait a minute.
What the heck?
Someday.
I'm out of here.
How the heck does that happen?
Oh, you ought to hear the complaints I get about the pay scale for the admins. Wah.
Well, you know. Oh, jeez.
This guy here has had me in tears at times. I'm sitting there on the telephone talking to the man, and he's had me in tears. He's almost got me in tears now. Anyway. No, go ahead, Mike. I know what you need to do, but go ahead, and I can't think of a whole lot more myself, so
No.
I'll turn things over to you because you're the one that we want to take and manage the podcast.
Yeah, there's really not a lot else to cover. I just posted the spreadsheet listing onto the comments under this. I'm going to go post it in the reloading room after the podcast, and I'll make sure it's attached to the show notes also. So if people want to go and look at that, it's a cool, interesting thing to see all the different calibers, and there's a few calibers on there I hadn't heard of before, or maybe not in a long time. There's a lot of calibers on there that the new reloaders aren't going to know about. And that's kind of the cool thing, is to go through and look at that. Or maybe if you have been reloading for a while, but say you only do pistol or only do rifle, then you'll find some different ones. So it was a fun post to watch. It's been fun talking about it. So one of these days maybe we'll do the pros and cons of each of the we'll take the different top 6 pistol calibers, and we'll go through and talk about those. Some of the differences in reload, different problems you run into while reloading them, or different things that make it a little easier, and we'll maybe do that with a couple of different rifle cartridges also. So, and yes, there were some Wildcats on there. in the rifles. All of the, most of the Ackley improves made it on there. So, and quite a few other ones. So it's a cool thing to look at and just kind of learn. There's probably people out there that didn't realize there's that many cartridges.
Well, that's one of the things about, you just brought up a very good point about reloading itself, and that's the versatility. You mentioned the Ackley improved Wildcats. I happen to know someone, again, for privacy reasons, I won't say who he is, but he has a 6mm AI, and he absolutely loves that caliber. And what it is a 6mm Remington, but it's blown out quite a bit. He moves the shoulder out with the edges of the shoulder. Not the neck size, because you still have to be able to chamber that particular round, but it's a 6mm Remington Ackley improved. And I think he told me he got 150 to 175 feet per second on that when he blew the shoulders out.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, though, I distracted myself, but the point is, reloading allows you versatility. Extremely versatile. You can do so much with reloading, it isn't funny. Add casting to it, add swaging to it. Man, we could talk all blinking night.
Yeah, we could definitely, even just on, say the 45 ACP, we just take that one cartridge, and we could probably, easily 3 or 4 days on just that one cartridge.
Oh, yeah. Jason, do you cast for the 45 ACP?
Yes, sir.
I thought you did. Jason and I both cast the same bullet. He lives in California. I live here in Pennsylvania. We both cast the 200 grain Lee semi-wad cutter. And we both have a pile of fun. But, I generally shoot my 1911 indoors where I don't lose my brass. And that's, the way I like it. But, yeah, the 45 ACP cartridge, oh, boy. I've heard of bullets as light as 145 grain all the way up to 250 grain. I think somebody tried to take and load it up 300 grain, but it just wouldn't fit in the cartridge.
Yeah, there isn't really any room for the powder on that.
Well, it's not only that. The other thing is, too, the bullet won't chamber. It's got to fit in the gun and go into battery.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike. I know what you need to do.
Oh, no. We're just going along, and if anybody's got any more thoughts. Otherwise, if you guys don't have any more thoughts to add to it, then we'll say goodnight to the folks.
Throw something at me, Jason, you dog.
I can't think
Come
of
on.
anything.
You can't think of anything. Well,
That's
what
a
do you
long
got
way to
right there in
throw
front of you? What do you got right there in front of you? I know you got a 444 Marlin round. What else you got? Show me a bullet or two. You hold it closer to the lens of your camera. Okay, that looks like a 45. No, that looks like a 30 caliber carbine round. Well, I know you got a big hand, so it's. I don't know what it is. What caliber is that?
Nice bulge.
I'll give you the 444 for the comparison.
Oh, it's 44 Magnum?
No, sir, it's a 500.
Oh, 500 S&W Magnum.
Yep.
That was one that did not make it onto the list. So, and I was kind of surprised by that with the popularity of it all, but I suppose, it can hurt to shoot it, so maybe it's not somebody's popular. So.
Jason? And Mike? Here's a ruler right here. I'll set it on here. And
sweet circus tricks.
There it is. There it is. Can you see the graduations?
Somewhat.
That's exactly a 1/2 inch diameter bullet.
Oh, you got Desert Eagle, Jim?
No, friend of mine has friend of mine has a 500 S&W Mag, and he gave me one of his bullets. These things are incredible. It's how much they cost.
Oh yeah.
I think this is a Sierra bullet. Look how deep that cavity is in there. Use mine. I have large hands. Everyone knows that, but mercy.
Indeed. Well,
what's
folks,
that 500 like to shoot, Jason? Shooting full house loads.
What's that, Jim?
What's that 500 like when you shoot full house loads?
It is a handful. It's, and if you got a good grip, it won't get away from you. That's not the issue. But after about 10 shots in a row, I feel it in my forearms. It really takes a toll. But 2 weekends ago, I had a lady police officer come over and ask me if she could shoot it. And she was a 110-pound little gal, and she shot it just fine. I mean, no problem. And that was my full house load.
Jason, may I make a suggestion to you, friend? Look into Packmeyer grips. Packmeyer grips.
Yeah, I should do.
Yeah, yeah, that'll actually enable you to take, and of course, too, it wouldn't hurt to take him back off on the load a little bit. No, I'm not getting on you that way. It's so that you can shoot more of it.
I don't understand. Why have a Smith & Wesson 500 then?
Exactly.
You just flattened Mike. You just flattened Mike.
Jim, that would be like buying a 502 cubic inch big block Chevy and putting it in something where you're only going to go 35 miles an hour. There's no point to it.
Okay.
The point for getting a 500 Smith & Wesson is because it's a 500 Smith & Wesson. There's no such thing as reduced recoil in that. Come on. If you want reduced recoil, go buy a 32 ACP.
Yep.
Now I got you both picking on me. Shame on y'all.
What are you talking about? We're not picking on you.
Oh, jeez. Oh, heck. Anyway, I have a question. I don't know if it's really appropriate or not, and I really don't want to go off the air, but, you know, what about the future? Where can we go? Where can we take this endeavor where we three are trying to take and work on? You know, yeah, okay, fine, sponsors and all that, but you know what? At the same time, we do have a lot of fun. And sponsors tell you what they think you ought to be doing.
Right.
But where can we take this? Where can we take this little venture and the reloading room?
Well, I guess as far as the reloading room, just continuing to be the awesome, wonderful place that it is to get people that information. And maybe this podcast becomes where we pick a topic or two out of the reloading room, and if we can, shoot video while we're doing the podcast to answer that question. Or, you know, we just you know, maybe get, you know, a couple more people on, or just us, and we sit down and we talk about it. And maybe go a little more in depth, maybe try and do a verbal step-by-step direction on it to really kind of help. You know, that was kind of the goal of this podcast, is to be helpful for the beginning reloader, but also be beneficial for the experienced reloader. So, you know, we want to, you know, we've gone through and we've done the beginning of your basics. We've covered that, so, you know, we don't want to continue to beat that. You know, we want to continue to go forward and answer the tougher questions. You know, answer the questions that don't necessarily pop up all the time. Kind of those odd duck questions. One of the questions that popped up in the reloading room this week was the good old Glock bulge.
Twice.
Yeah. And the biggest issue that most people have with that, well, I've had 2 different generation Glocks 40s, and I've never had that problem. And you get that response, which isn't necessarily the response that you need, because obviously if this person is having that issue, then they need to know what they can do to solve it. Now, the beautiful thing is, obviously it's a big enough problem, because there's 3 different companies that make dies. They make resizing dies to fix that problem. So you're not wasting that brass. The other thing is, I've actually heard of, I've not personally seen, but I've heard of other 40 cal semi-automatic pistols doing the same thing. Maybe not necessarily as badly, but they do it. And the other advantage of those dies is if you stovepipe one, then you can use that to resize, reform that case as long as you didn't, put a permanent crimp in it.
One thing I do know that about the Glock bulge thing is that I do believe they've solved the problem on the generation 3 and 4. The Glock bulge comes from the early Glocks, as I understand it. The second thing is, though, I don't know, the Glock bulge was no concern of Gaston Glock, because remember, Glock Incorporated does not recommend using reloads. They recommend using factory ammunition only. And I just had a taste of some factory ammunition in 357 yesterday. I'm sorry, Saturday or Friday. I'll get it right. Anyway, and it's pretty lively stuff. And every once in a while, I shoot some of my stuff, and it's about 90% of some of this factory stuff. And it's like, who cares about the Glock bulge? Not Glock Incorporated. They're not concerned about reloaders. They tell us not to reload our ammunition.
Yeah. They don't want to see us take this brass and reload it because they want us only to use, and most of your firearms manufacturers have that same attitude. A lot of it has to do with the liability concerns nowadays. Is they really don't want us running reloads in their firearms because reloads inherently have their own issues and own problems. Now, if you pay attention to what you're doing, you make sure you follow the steps, and you're careful from start to finish, you're going to minimize or reduce or completely remove those problems. Your half-charge cases, your overcharge cases, your incorrectly seated primers, your head spacing issues. Those are kind of the more common ones. And it's not going to be an issue. You're going to have the same success rate as if you're firing factory ammunition. Usually it's a little better ammunition, too, because it's a little more consistent as far as the powder charge goes, as far as the seating and everything else, because you can control that. You can tailor it to that firearm.
Yes, I quite agree with you. But, those mistakes you're talking about are, yes, I know where this is going, but those mistakes are also back to the individual reloader who simply doesn't pay attention to what he's doing. He just simply bowls ahead and makes mistakes, and he doesn't realize it until he blows his fingers off. That's on him as an individual. Unfortunately, I know what you're thinking, Jason. It's like that does put a stigma or a cloud over the rest of us. Those of us that are out there, then we have made our mistakes, and I can name a mistake, and I won't embarrass you, Jason. I can name a mistake right now that it's like we weren't thinking. That's all.
Yeah.
But the mistakes like that are on the individual. Unfortunately, they do reflect on all of us.
Exactly.
That's all I got, Mike.
Well, on that note, folks, we thank you once again for tuning in. We thank Jake and all the guys at Firearms Radio Network for sponsoring the bandwidth. And also, something that we've been neglecting to tell you folks, if you shop Brownells or Sinclair, which are all the same company as most people do know, or if you shop Amazon, we do have links on our Reloading Podcast website where you can go. It doesn't cost you folks anymore, but what it does is every time you use one of our links, it gives a little kickback to the show to help pay for the bandwidth. Obviously, we're not getting paid for this. It's not a case of we're trying to get rich off this podcast. But what we do really want to try and do is we want to pay for the bandwidth. That's the big expense. And it's if we can get everybody using the links, then we can continue to be on the air. We can continue to do this. Not that we're going off the air or anything like that. It's not that, it's not an issue like that. But it just makes everything easier on the Firearms Radio Network if, each show is paying for their own bandwidth.
Exactly. The thing is, what Mike's talking about is the server space that actually stores these podcasts and serves them to you, the public at large. that requires a certain amount of funding every year. And what we're talking about is the links help go to pay for that.
Yeah. It doesn't, like I said, it does not cost you. If you're buying something from Brownells, it doesn't cost you anymore. If you're buying something from Amazon, it doesn't cost you anymore. It's just clicking on that link, and then Amazon and Brownells say, hey, these people found this through this. So, you know, they give us a little bit back. So if you can just, folks, help us out with that. If you have a product that you want reviewed, that's one of the things we're going to start doing also is, you know, just even just between the three of us, stuff that we have, we're going to go through and do reviews on. You know, different processes. We haven't even touched shot shell reloading yet. That we're going to get into also. We're going to go through and do the same thing with shot shell reloading, which is going to be an experience for Jim, because Jim doesn't shot shell reload.
And I've got a shot shell press.
So Jim's going to get to learn how to use that. And Jason, do you do any shot shell reloading?
No, I have a press, but I've never touched it.
We'll see. There we go. We're going to teach you both how to shot shell reload. So I'm going to be showing I'm going to do the whole reloading process on 2 different reloaders. I currently have a mech 12 gauge. I believe it's a 600 or 600 Junior, something along that lines. I got it at a garage sale for $25. It is a mech for sure. It works perfectly. That's awesome. It does 2 3/4 or 3-inch shells. So we're going to go through and show that. And at some point in time in the next couple months, I'm going to actually start reloading 20 gauge for my niece and also for my sons when they're shooting in 4H. So I'm going to get just to keep costs down on that, I'm getting a Lee Loadall, and so I'll have that to show. And they're both awesome. The next step also that we're going to be doing is multi-stage. That's not going to be for probably another, you know, we're probably not going to be looking at doing that until, you know, the fall. But eventually we're going to go through and do the multi-stage like we did with the single stage, where we go through and we should walk you through all the steps and everything. And the best part about that is we're going to hopefully be able to do show you a couple different loaders. I have probably the most misaligned, beaten on redheaded stepchild loader.
That's because it's red.
The Lee Loadmaster, and so that's the one I'll be using to show, and hopefully we can get everything set up so we can have Jim show his, and maybe Jason do some on his stuff too. So that's kind of where we're headed. Is we're going to start doing some product reviews, kind of explain how some of them work. You know, some of the stuff that maybe isn't necessarily so commonplace. So that's where we're kind of looking, and we're just going to continue to have the chat forums too, where we just kind of sit here and bullcrap away and talk about different things. So
another question I just remembered is, do we have any viewers out there asking questions? Did you happen to check the Q&A?
We have no questions tonight.
Okay.
So, but that's another thing is if you're listening on the audio podcast when this posts, and you do have time at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern, and 6 o'clock Pacific, and you want to tune into the video podcast, we do have question and answer. Otherwise, you can go to the Google Plus page for Reloading Podcast. You can go to the actual reloadingpodcast.com. You can go to the Facebook page, and you can post comments or questions there, or you can post them in the Reloading Room. And if you post them in the Reloading Room, all we ask is just do hashtag Reloading Podcast on it. So that way we can kind of search through there and find it a little easier. If anybody spends any time on the Reloading Podcast or the Reloading Room, it doesn't take long to have a question be 10, 15 questions down in the list. So it doesn't take long at all. There's a lot of questions asked, a lot of questions answered, and it's a pretty quick pace in the Reloading Room. But they get answered, and it's an awesome place to spend time just kind of soaking up knowledge, even if you're just sitting there watching all the posts.
I'll tell you something. I've told you this before on the podcast, and I think Jason will back me up. The one person that has learned the most is the guy his finger's pointing at, me. I'm the one that's learned the most, folks, and I thank you all. And Jason will tell you he's the one to learn the most, but he's too ignorant to know I'm the top dog.
I've learned a lot.
So, all right, folks. Thanks for tuning in once again. And you all have a great night.
All right.
Are you going to say bye, Jim?
Bye, everyone. Come see me in the Reloading Room. Facebook.com/The Reloading Room. You'll actually get to see this other handsome devil in there, too. Jason Trumbo. Good man. He's a good man. No matter how much I slam him, he takes it and he laughs about it because he knows I'm just pulling his chain.
As well, good friends do.
Yes, sir. He's
Jason?
one of my best friends out there.
Anything you
Go
want
ahead,
to
Jason.
Jim's too far away to hurt me, so I don't care what he says.
One finger, buddy. One finger. Wait till he kicks off that live button.
All right, folks. You have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.